Thank you very much for taking the time to hear us out. Whether you are an investor or just looking to get behind a project in the blockchain and climate tech space, you are welcome here and we would love to talk to you about it. And it's already been so exciting to have had the chance to collaborate with so many of you, and we look forward to much more of that. So, my partner and I have a combined 30 plus years working with sustainability in the built environment. And quite honestly, when it comes to climate change, buildings are the problem, or at least 40% of the problem. In any case, that's what's led us here, and it opened our minds to a bigger question, which is our not so unlofty challenge statement we're working to address. How might we reimagine the global economy so that it prioritizes the environment? And through a really involved and iterative process, we kept coming back to solutions in the regenerative finance space. More specifically, our solution starts here. We create a digital asset underpinned by the value of positive environmental action, an ESG token backed by carbon. We start with mining carbon credits from energy performance improvements in buildings. Then we grow a blockchain-based ESG currency ecosystem. Here is our plan. Starting with the all-important why. Sure, it comes back to dollars and cents, which we got covered, but paramount to it all is the moral imperative. The climate is in crisis. Global economies will be taking hits in the trillions, and the social costs are incalculable. If we want to talk dollars, climate change could wipe off up to 18% of GDP off the worldwide economy. And even more scary, we can expect that for every 1,000 tons of carbon emitted, one human life will be lost prematurely. Now pause and think about that one for a second. And this is honestly the real reason why we're doing what we're doing. We just understand that the most quickly deployable and effective solution is one that returns value to the stakeholders. So what's the opportunity we're tapping into to do that? A market with a TAM that is 1 billion growing to 200 billion over the next 30 years. We target our solution here because that's where we'll be the most helpful to the planet, and that's why the numbers are showing such exponential opportunity growth. Investing in carbon is investing in the future of business and enterprise. And the second part of the opportunity that we're honing in on for our niche and beachhead in this space, buildings. Carbon project developers are by and large focused on planting trees, renewable projects, maybe large district scale energy projects, or even cooler sequestration projects. But an area that's been neglected is the potential for carbon avoidance through building energy efficiency improvements. We mentioned before that buildings are the problem. Well, that means that any solution that ignores addressing them is an incomplete one. So it's clear that we're in a sector that's going to see a ton of growth. We have a plan to target a grossly underserved part of that market. Now, it's also important to set the stage for how current systems are broken and for how our solution helps fix that. Carbon markets. Currently, kind of rickety, kind of dated, kind of clunky. They're characterized by having low liquidity, poor quality offsets, and really troublesome traceability and transparency. Now, this reality pointed us towards the burgeoning regenerative finance ecosystem that is emerging through blockchain technologies. It really became clear to us that the future of carbon trading is on-chain and that it's going to create foundations to build projects we can't even imagine yet. We're doing our best to read the tea leaves, but it's actually pretty obvious that the majority of innovation that will happen in the environmental, ESG, and carbon space is going to be enabled through blockchain and Web3. So up here, these are some of the kids that are already in the sandbox, and we can fit in with a partner to win model that gives us a foothold and poises us for growth. And so to recap, we picked our starting market as carbon. We picked a niche channel focused on using buildings as a liquidity engine for on-chain carbon. We identified the things that are currently broken, and we have a compelling case for blockchain and Web3 to enable the solution. Now, we're not so big-headed to think that we are the whole solution, but we are an important part of it. So how's it go down? Well, we mint carbon tokens based on verified utility data and push them on-chain into the blockchain carbon ecosystem that is already flourishing. And we partner to win where it makes sense with projects like KlimaDAO and Toucan. We adhere to the industry standard for verified carbon credit quality, and by doing this, we lay the foundation for us to grow a much larger ESG currency ecosystem. In the process, traditional voluntary carbon market brokerages are completely disrupted. We're providing value back to buildings they didn't even know they had, and we've established a foothold as the leading blockchain carbon market liquidity engine. And just want to talk through the user experience perspective for our MVP, or minimum viable product, that we're putting out. A building owner's perspective. Let this be one of the many properties through which we have relationships that go way back. After we talk to them about EcoMint, they sign up their properties, implement energy efficiency projects, watch their energy use go down, connect their utility account to EcoMint. EcoMint verifies that data and calculates their avoided emissions, sends that through Vera for certification, bridges on-chain through Toucan, and mints out CO2 tokens, which are returned as rewards to the owner. The property then receives annual rewards for the avoided emissions on an annual rolling basis. They then have access to capital to reinvest in more energy efficiency projects or retire them as a showing of offset permanence. I want to be clear that we have a roadmap that gets us to launch of our MVP. Step by step, we know how to get there, and we have the relationships and strategy to succeed when we launch. We just need the seed support to get resources deployed and rolling. We're happy to share the roadmap or details of the business plan to those interested, so don't hesitate to reach out about that. Now, to follow that, I got to get into the big vision here. We're not just looking to be a one-trick pony. To effect broader change and to align with the trillions of enterprise capital coalescing around ESG, we need to broaden the reach of our token to pull the whole range of ESG indicators into our ecosystem. From renewable energy to water conservation and clean drinking water to waste reduction and recycling to habitat restoration to transportation emission reductions to organic farming, even to reducing harmful chemicals and materials. All of these are planned indicators that will enter the ecosystem. It's also important to note that this whole thing is also a strategic positioning for EcoMint to take a strong role in bringing order to the ESG assurance sector and make a big environmental data play. So what's that look like? We'll create a system that unfolds like this. You got your company at the center. They compile and report their annual ESG data within a standardized ESG framework. EcoMint then has a third-party program operator that provides data assurance. Once checked out, that ESG info is bridged on-chain into an ERC 721 NFT. That NFT's metadata includes fractionalized ESG indicator data, which will be the basis for tokenizing it. At the same time, we have a community-governed DAO called CO2 DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization that has gone through a detailed science-based weighting process for the indicators. They apply those weightings to the fractionalized units of ESG data, which result in minting a normalized value token that lives on-chain and goes back to the owner's digital wallet. Now, it's important to note that the owner of those positive ESG impacts will have two main options for their digital environmental assets. One, they can choose to report out and take credit for all those impacts, which then retires the impacts with the proceeds going to NGOs that have been pre-selected by the community-governed DAO. Or the second option, the company is free to sell their tokens to then reinvest in their own company. In selling their CO2, they realize financial rewards, but are not able to claim ownership on their books or reporting for the positive ESG impacts. Now, this is an experiment with macroeconomic implications. It is an opportunity to create a currency that finds its value not in the full faith and credit of any given government, but rather in the positive environmental and social impacts of the players within the free market economy. It is our opportunity to make money while saving the planet. And we got to talk about why it's a good idea from the perspective of those that will be using the currency. One, it gives enterprise a more effective means of ESG reporting. Two, it fixes the transparency and traceability issue. Three, it creates an ecosystem for regenerative finance. And four, it will position us to dominate in ESG software, reporting, assurance, and the carbon sector by 2030 with a combined TAM of over $50 billion. All this leads most people to the next question: how much money are we going to make? I'll show you two numbers: the serviceable obtainable market for our MVP and the serviceable obtainable market for the vision state. The MVP sum is pretty straightforward. It means we get 2% of the built environment in the US engaged, and they achieve modest reductions in energy use as forecasted by the Energy Information Administration. The calcs we've taken on that one are conservative path all the way through. For vision state, that number, roughly $500 million in annual revenue, is also conservative and based on only 1% market share across the sectors we'll be involved in. We're doing this to save the planet. We're going into a market that's blowing up. We have a good starting niche. We provide value way beyond that. The opportunities that'll come out of the initial project are substantial and many. We hope, after hearing this, you're interested, and we hope you'll join us, because we all got to do something. It's too important not to. Thanks so much for taking the time. We appreciate you, and reach out for more information, and have a great day. Cheers.